President Obama's re-election campaign has a new video out. It's a trailer for a documentary by award-winning director who did Inconvenient Truth. And this is propaganda at its best. Okay, and it's really, I mean that in both ways. It is definitely propaganda, and it's definitely a really good job at it. Let's watch.
How do we understand this president and his time in office? Do we look at the day's headlines, or do we remember what we as a country have been through?
The president-elect is here in Chicago, and he's named the members of the economic team, and they all fly in for the first big briefing on the economy.
What was described in that meeting was an economic crisis beyond anything anybody had imagined.
Our time of standing pat, of protecting narrow interests and putting off unpleasant decisions, that time has surely passed.
His advisors would ask where to begin. Which urgent need would he put first?
Which is 1, which is 2, which is 3, which is 4, which is 5? Where do you start?
If we don't do this now, it will be a generation before 30 million people have health insurance.
If the auto industry goes down, what happens to America's manufacturing base? What happens to jobs in America? What happens to the whole Midwest?
The entire national security apparatus was in that room. And now we had to make a decision, go or not go. As he walked out the room, it started to dawn on me, he's all alone. This is his decision. Nobody is standing there with him.
So there you have it, re-election campaign with that's a brilliant trailer for a documentary about how hard it was for President Obama. Now, a lot of that is absolutely true. He started in a massive hole. We'd lost millions of jobs from a recession that he did not create. He had no part in creating. And then he's got to figure out, do you do the auto bailout? And, you know, they do the healthcare reform. And I'm halfway in favor of healthcare reform. I'm 3/4 of the way in favor of the auto bailout. I'm 100% in favor of what they did with Osama bin Laden, also mentioned there. So they make good points. Of course, the devil's in the details of what they don't tell you. So when President Obama was faced with these decisions about what to do in the midst of this recession and this economic crash, he decided, let's continue to give trillions of dollars in free money to the top bankers who destroyed our economy in the first place. Let's not prosecute any of them for the obvious mortgage fraud that they did on a grand scale. Let's let the banks slide entirely. And that if they recover, let's not get anything back for the American people. Yeah, they'll return the interest-free loans we gave them through TARP and through the Fed. Whoop-de-doo. But will we get any of the profit if they get back up on top? As anybody who does a bailout would, like if a private interest came and bailed out one of these banks, do you think that they would take some of the profit if the banks got back on their feet? Of course, that's how it works. Did we get any of that? Nothing. We got our interest-free loans repaid, some of them. Wow. Wow, I'm really impressed. How about homeowners? What happened for them? Well, not very much at all. They did a program called HAMP, that's supposed to do mortgage modification. Did it? No. It did it for a minuscule amount of homes and took a great majority of the money, $50 billion, and Tim Geithner, as almost a slap in the face of homeowners, took that money and gave it to the banks instead. Over and over again, when faced with a decision, President Obama's Treasury Department decided, let's side with the bankers and let's not do very much for the middle class. And then when they were asked to justify why they didn't do much for homeowners, they're like, well, we don't want to encourage people making bad decisions. How about the bankers that made the bad decisions, the worst decisions? No, that we can encourage all day long. And of course, they don't tell you about the civil liberties abuses, the drone strikes killing American citizens without due process, the warrantless wiretapping, the National Defense Authorization Act that says that we can indefinitely detain U.S. citizens, and the list goes on and on. Now, the reason I get worked up on this is because this is partly to convince average Americans, independents, moderates, et cetera, to vote for President Obama. The other half of it is to tell progressives, shut up and bow your head. Look at all that President Obama has done under unbelievable circumstances, yet you still have the nerve to complain about all of his right-wing proposals. No. Shush. Everybody be quiet. You're not allowed to complain about that because he was so good at getting us out of this jam by giving all the money to the bankers. Yeah, no, I don't think he was very good at it. And honestly, I think the economy will crash again. And it's not because we did too much stimulus. It's not even necessarily because we did too little stimulus. It's because we never fixed the underlying system. These reckless banks still run our entire they have our financial fate in their hands. We should have never allowed that. They're going to crash the economy again. But then they will come back, and if President Obama wins re-election, they'll say, oh, you don't understand. We were in a tough spot. We did the best we could, etc. No, I do understand the details. And while some of what you're saying there is true, it is largely propaganda to get everybody in line. And I don't know how you all feel, but I am in no mood to get in line. It doesn't mean that I think that Republicans are better. I've said it a million times. I'll probably say it a million more times. Yes, they are definitively worse. But that doesn't excuse the actions of President Obama.